So since we're dealing with paradoxes, we need to think about critical thinking. Critical thinking is talked about a lot. There are a lot of different definitions for it, and I think we have to be very specific about what we mean by critical thinking. So, what I'm going to do is present you a specific definition and then talk a little bit about that so we can get an idea of what my view is of how we're going to use that in this course. So, this comes from Brenda Judge and some other authors from a book, and I wanted to read it to you so you could understand this, and then we'll talk about it. Critical thinking is essentially a questioning, challenging approach to knowledge and perceived wisdom. It involves ideas and information from an objective position and then questioning this information in light of our own values, attitudes, and personal philosophy. There's a lot to unpack here, but let's break it down a little bit. What you probably see from here is that critical thinking is not just let's create a better mousetrap with what we have. It's not just tweaking an idea, coming up with something smarter. There's a significant amount of questioning that we're doing in terms of fundamental assumptions, in terms of deep thinking about how we are living, how we are processing things, how we are mobilizing things in our lives. So it's taking what we view as accepted and saying, is this really how it should be? By questioning those assumptions and blending together two things, not only the information that we have, the facts that we have, but also our values and our attitudes and our philosophies. So to some extent, there's some ethics behind this as well that play into critical thinking. It's not just how do we objectively look at things, but it's also how do we ethically look at things and decide whether we should do these, not just whether we can do these things. So as we're going through our work, what we need to do is operate in a very different way and add a lot of questions. So let's take an example, something that has bothered me for a long time. People talk about the war for talent in organizations, that all these companies are trying to hire people and we're in this war for talent. Now, language is a key to questioning. Taking a look at the words that people use and the ideas that people use will help you to get down into some of the assumptions that are built underneath it. So questioning those words. So obviously we're going to deal with the word war here. So what does the language war for talent imply? When you think about war, you think about violence, you think about winning at all costs, you think about self-protection because there's potential death involved here. So self-protection means sometimes that you violate ethics, you violate things that you normally wouldn't violate because you need to protect yourself. So these are some of the assumptions that could be built into it. I'm not saying they are, but they could be built into it and they could be influencing behaviors. We also make the assumption that the talent that another company needs is exactly what we need because we're competing for the same talent. Well, that's not necessarily true either because it assumes that our cultures are the same. It assumes that our approaches are the same. It assumes that the type of knowledge that we need from those people are the same. And as you know, companies have different cultures. They have different approaches to things. And it's not, again, to say that there may not be people that both companies need, but it challenges it to say, are we locking ourselves in? Are we making some assumptions that are limiting our possibilities, or they're forcing us to operate or behave in a certain way, sometimes unethically, sometimes not very intelligently or not very wise? So this is what we mean by critical thinking. So when we're dealing with paradoxes and we're dealing with humans, we have to use these ideas, and we'll be using this throughout the course.